And touching wraps back, and that gives me a good place where I know where I want to clip my stem off once I tie in my hackle. So that gives me a good reference point, which is about halfway between the point and the bend on the hook eye. So that just gives me a good reference. And I'll just go back, put a couple wraps from the hook eye back up to that little shoulder. I call it shoulder, where it bends right, deflects right down. And that's where I'm going to, about 2 wraps back, and that's where I'm going to tie in this hackle. And I tie, as a rule, generally everything on top of the hook shank. So I'll tilt it towards me a little bit and pinch that down. And I don't want it to roll, so I'm going to use just a little bit of pressure that increases as I tie it. Okay. And just I'll wrap it touching threads because I like a good solid hook base. I see a lot of tires that cheat and they just spiral it along, but I like to just get it. Now as soon as I get it down to the top of the hook shank, where them threads stop, the first threads I stop, that thing usually will take a bite and break. Nice and clean. You ain't got to deal with it no more. I'll go 3 or 4 wraps and I'll get my wire. This is my brilliant contraption here, which isn't much of anything, but it's just a toothpick and a piece of random foam that I found, and I put a needle in there just to thread it through and keeps it from going everywhere on me and taking off on me. And I shouldn't do that. Those are my fine scissors. Those are my cheapos that I use for cutting wire. And that wire is probably a couple inches long, usually much more than I need, but for expediency's sake, we'll just get it ready and go. And I'll tie it at a slight angle and let it just naturally roll up on there. And then I'll have that wire quit right where that feather quit, because I don't want to build any extra bulk. I'll just cover the end of that wire a little bit. Now I'll go back to where that barb is, and I didn't pinch the barb on this one, but I'll go back just before where that barb flares back this way, and that's when I'll stop. Right about there. Make 2 wraps to lock that thing down.
You said about where the barb starts.
Right about where the barb bends back. I won't go quite that far. Go halfway from the point
of it. You're just
right from the point to where that barb is. Let's see. Okay. Has some pheasant tail sitting up here somewhere. Or the crop piece. There it is. There it is. That's what I'll peel off that 5 or 6 of them. Line the tips. You get a little bit more mileage out when you line the tips up.
How did you line the tips there?
Just pull it down so it's about perpendicular with the shaft.
That's pretty. I always put myself crazy trying to line things up separate.
The lighter colored side or the shiny side towards me when I tie it in. Of course, I'm right-handed, so everything's facing me in that.
Are you tying it by the tip?
Tie it in by a tip because it's got a natural taper to that bunch of feathers. And you ain't got to get fancy about it because the pheasant tail's going to cover it. And I'll get about 2 hook eyes from the base of the feather there. I'm going to move this little swing out bobbin rest here and get the line out of the way. And I'll start my wraps on my pheasant tail. One come off, that's alright, we'll let it go. And I'll just come around the back of that wire and up in front of it, and I just hand wrap it. I found that every time I try and put hackle pliers on it, I'll bust it. They're just barely overlapping maybe 1 fiber. I don't want a lot of bulk. I get to about where my thread quit. I'll tie that off and secure it with about 2 wraps behind. And I always lock my stuff down and 2 wraps in front of it. Tying front end and back, it ain't going to roll on you. It ain't going to move. And I'll cover those wraps just a couple. Get them fuzzies off. Get that out of the way, and then I'll start counter wrapping my wire. And just come back. Get about 5 wraps. So they're evenly spaced, the thickest thing.
I hadn't even thought about wrapping counter wraps with the wire there.
Well, it just tends to secure it more because the pheasant tail is so brittle, you know, and teeth on a brown trout will just wear it out after a while. But this will hold it a little longer.
The other reason counter wrap with that is it won't fall down in the spaces.
Yeah.
Now some guys will sit there and break this off. Some copper you can, but you know what? I'm not going to distort my hook. trying to tug on it real hard. So most time I just snip it and take that little nub that's left and just mash her down with my thumb and cover it with a few wraps of thread. Not too much. And I really don't want to build too much bulk. Now all I'm going to do is make me a little thorax. I'm just going to get a little dub, and I've already got a little natural hairs here that's just a mixture of all the different hairs from all areas on the hairs mask. I just some dark here, some light, and I just hand mix it all up. There's no fancy method or no real big thought process to it. I just put a little wax on it, get a clump, dust it, roll it lightly.
That thorax is important to give that hackle.
That's right.
To create a